So is this the actual start of the podcast?
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Let's start this. So what is beyond not behind. I'm confused. Remember we were trying to find like names and it's like behind the signs. No. So it's Beyond the Signs podcast. What is it about? What is it to you? What is it to me? So let me hear your thoughts.
Okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the sort of, not tagline, but sort of little intro that we've created, which is, it is a podcast for creators by creators.
Right.
So that essentially means to me that, you know, we are both creators and collaborators and entrepreneurs, and we are constantly having these conversations, these creative conversations about our jobs and, you know, certain aspects of our jobs that are not the best and that are difficult and that are amazing and all of the above. And we just have always had these conversations, but never thought to really, you know, put them anywhere. And this is essentially that coming to fruition.
Right. It's actually really funny that you mentioned, like, because people see, like, after you've been successful or after you've done, like, a couple of jobs and they're like, yo, like, that's fantastic. Like they think it's roses and daisies at the first go, but it's never like that.
It's never like that. Even when you are successful, I feel like it's still not like that.
Right.
It's just not realistic.
No, like I'm telling you, it's like insane because like I've always had friends coming up to me saying, yo, like, damn, you're like a photographer, you're a videographer, like what the hell you do? And then like it's also crazy because like I tell them that I'm not just the one thing. I'm also like so many different things because like being a creative is one thing and being a photographer or videographer is a different thing in our retrospect of our careers, because the reason why I like the word creative is that it scopes a lot of different jobs and a lot of different hats that we wear. Like we're our own marketers, we're our own designers, we're our own like brand essentially. So just saying like being a photographer doesn't do us justice, or being a filmmaker just doesn't do it justice. Yeah, that's one hat that we wear, but we wear multiple different hats.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when you're a small-time creator, you are doing everything yourself. Every aspect of the job, you are doing it. I saw this meme one time that was saying like, when you're a photographer, but that means you also have to be your own manager, your own sound, you know, manager, your own this, that, and the third, like posting for you, you know, getting your website out for you. You have to make your website yourself unless you want to pay somebody. Like, we really have to do everything, every aspect of the job.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned like posting. You remember those days when you're like, oh, I have to post at Tuesday, 2:00 just to get it out. And then now they have like apps that like have like planners and stuff like that. So like I think about like, I just put all my stuff on there and like have them like just sync it up for me, just so I don't have to worry about it.
That's cool. I mean, I don't do that. So
you don't do that yet?
No, I don't.
No, you got to get on there.
I do.
They're
See, this is what like,
yet,
and for anybody else who doesn't know that exists, like he just put you on. So
exactly. But I'm not saying their name because we're not sponsored yet.
No. No free promo.
Yeah. You guys got to find it on the App Store. But yeah, like I feel like that's what we essentially wanted to do when it came to like making this podcast, is just to figure out like help other creators out there, or just hear our stories, or even like our opinions, or like whether it be opinions or debates that we have about like different things that we see, different views that we view. It's just insane. Like you meet one creator, you learn something new every single day. Like
it's so crazy.
You never run out of any conversations. Like all the conversations that we've had in the past about like this like environment, or like being a creator itself, like it fosters new ideas, new like perspectives of things that you've never seen before.
Absolutely. I think like every single person that I've met through this industry, I've learned at least one to multiple things from, whether it be about the industry or just about life perspectives, anything. Like you learn so much talking to people who have a creative mind that think generally similar to you.
Right.
Like, we are very different people, but we have creative minds. And that brings us together in a lot of ways because we can provide each other with different perspectives on a lot of topics, you know?
Right. But wouldn't you also say that we see, because of that, the same aspect of us being a creator, we see a lot of things together the same way, not necessarily in the same, like, I wouldn't say around the same time, because there were a few debates that we had that, like, you would try to show it to me and I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Or I would try to show it to you, like, no, that makes no sense. But then later on, it fosters, and then you get to understand each one's perspective. Because I know for myself, I'm not the best of explainers when it comes to things, because the way I visually or the way I interpret things are the way, like, my mind interprets it, and interprets it in, like, this really weird and, like, mathematical way. Because I've always thought about like creativity in such a scientific, beautiful way, where, like, everything makes sense, but in the retrospective of it having to, like, tie in together. Like, I never thought of, like, being a creator. It was just this free form sort of way of thinking, right? Where I'm probably contradicting the meaning of being a creator, which is, like, being, like, free-minded. But, like, I think for me, thinking in that way kind of helped me figure out what a creator does.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the whole point, is that when you're a creator, like, I don't think that there's any box that anybody should try to put you in, because your mind processes things differently than mine and then the next person and the next person. And that means that, you know, you do things for a different reason in a specific way, and that doesn't mean that it's wrong.
No,
you know?
Absolutely. That's the beauty
of it.
art, is that it's subject. It's a subject, not subject. What's the word I'm looking for? It's subjective.
Yeah.
Art is subjective to the user or to the eye of the beholder. So I don't see it as art being like a one way thing. And that's why I relate it back to math, because to solve a problem, there's multiple ways of solving it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I remember back in the old days when, like, I did math homework or math assignments, like, my teachers would always tell me my work. I'd show it. They have no idea what I'm doing, but I finally get to the answer. Like, okay, at least I got to the answer. So does it really come to a point where it's like, does the process matter, or does the result matter? And that could be a topic for a different podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Which is insane.
Which is what we do on a daily basis. And this is exactly why we started this podcast, because the amount of times that we have been having a conversation, and mid-conversation we're like, you know what? All of this could be a podcast episode. We need to stop talking, because we need to save these genuine words, this genuine flow of conversation for an environment like this.
Right. And like, it's funny too, because, like, it's something that we do, like, organically. It's not something that we script out. It's not something that, like, and that's what's great about this platform that we're on right now, is that we're allowed to speak our minds and allow it to free form in words and manifest into ideas for other people to see. Mm-hmm. And just like by coming up with this podcast, we had so many different ideas, and we, like, spun out to different conversations stuff. And then we had to, like, try to direct it, or, like, fun it down to, like, all right, we got to really get this on paper. So, like, there were multiple times where I'm like, all right, we're going to call it a day for now, because I'm just coming up with ideas right now. Let's just get everything underway, try to format it in the way that it's possible. And here we are now.
And I think, it's amazing that we finally did this, because my goal, and I know that yours is the same or similar, our goal is to, put something out that people can relate to, and that people can look at and say, I feel like this with my friends that are entrepreneurs or creatives, and we have these types of conversations. Like, not only that too, but I think it's interesting that, we're not wildly successful or well-known people in the industry. And I think that that's a huge advantage in this instance because I personally love being able to relate to people who are not, just already big and doing their thing and
Right.
making so much money and getting all these paying gigs and, being a steady, like that is their income for sure. I think this is interesting because it's relatable because for a lot of creators who haven't made it yet, I hate to say that, make it sound cliche, but it's true. For a lot of creators who are not where they want to be yet, like it's cool to have people to relate to that are kind of on the same level,
Right. And that actually made me think of another podcast episode idea where it's like, what does it mean to make it? You know what I mean? Because like,
Absolutely.
it's this notion that like making it means that you've reached a peak. But like, what I love the fact that being a creator, there's no such peak for me. I want to keep creating. I want to keep my creative juices flowing. I want to be able to have this hunger to just make, design, break, and redesign again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I feel for me, like, I can't call myself a photographer. I can't call myself a videographer. I can't call myself like an architect, which I am.
Right.
But like, I can call myself me because that's who I am. I manifested this persona that I love to create. I love to do anything. So when like we're talking about like people who haven't made it and stuff like that, what does it really mean to them? Like to me, like I believe I've not in the retrospect I made it like I'm making in the millions and stuff. I'm saying that I made it in my own retrospect that I've accomplished something that I want to do. And that's, I'm telling you, this is a different podcast.
Absolutely. No, it's crazy because it's like, yeah, is it just how much you've accomplished? Is it whether you're able to support yourself through your craft? Is it whether, the type of people you're able to work with in your craft? Like, I think it is just so subjective, like we were saying about, art is subjective in itself.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. Like, no one can tell you you're doing it wrong.
No.
Maybe the techniques, but like, then again, it's always subjective. Like, what if you like that technique that you're doing and it works for your craft? Like, that's the insane part about this platform or the creative platform is that you can make something out of nothing. That's why, like, if you look back into the Renaissance days, they were true Renaissance men because they innovated, made some new discoveries, new technology, new like innovations. And that's where like my inspiration comes from when I do design or do my arts and craft is that I like to look at like not people in general, but eras in time to figure out what they have accomplished in their lifetime and see where we can innovate and make better.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I can go on the whole history of how cameras were made. And it was like, it's interesting because like I said, I always relate everything back to architecture. And the first guy who actually invented the concept of how cameras work was an architect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I learned about that in school. I took one class on the history of photography. And we learned all about that dude.
Yeah. Filippo Brunelleschi. I probably butchered his last name, but it's Brunelleschi.
But I think that's so interesting in general, too, because the amount of successful artists that did not go to school for what they became. And also, I know personally, I didn't go to school for photography. You didn't go to school for videography and photography and any other creative endeavor. The only thing you went to school for is architecture.
Yeah, and that's why I relate everything back to architecture because that's where my mindset goes.
But it just shows that you don't have to have a educational technique that is shown to you by a teacher to be able to succeed in whatever creative field you want to be in.
That's a whole nother topic for another podcast too.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, there's so many things that we can talk about, but it really comes to what exactly drives the message home when it comes to what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is help relate to people who have who are on this path or who are thinking about starting this path, because like you said before, like people don't know where to start. And that's the frustration. It's the start, not the journey, because the journey is the fun part. The end result is what people see.
But also, the journey can be a struggle. Let
Oh
me
no,
tell you.
absolutely. And that's
Because you could be in the middle of your journey and come to a sort of standstill and not really know where to go from there. And it feels like sometimes you go back to square one and you're like, where do I go from here? You know, I was on this momentum, this high, and you know, something happened. I had to stop. I had to regroup. I had to take a mental health break. I had to, you know, a pandemic happened, like wherever it may be, where now you're like, I am in this creative rut where I don't know how to get my feet back on the ground and get back into the swing of things. That's another thing that like so many people relate to that. So many more people than you realize.
No, absolutely. And funny enough, the pandemic is another topic that we should talk about, because while people are in this
You
creative
guys
rut,
are hearing all of our future ideas right now.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I can't wait for you guys to listen to it. But also, like the pandemic, going back to it, it's like, it's funny because like a lot of people, like there were two different sides: those who thrived and those who like decided to be in this like rut hole of like not knowing where the world is going, like at a standby.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you from my side, I was thriving, not in the way where like I'm like doing good, but like I was using it to my advantage.
Right.
And like a lot of these creators, actually, it's funny enough, is that regular people who aren't creative were on this thrive too when it came to creating things. Cause like one of the platforms that was like, or still is popular, is TikTok. And people who are like your average teachers or mail service guy or whoever it could be. It could be Steve from The Office, and he did fantastic. You know what I mean?
Totally. And the fact that now they have developed creator kits on, you know, like if you go on like B&H Photos website, like they have they're selling creator kits. I feel like
what?
Yeah, I feel like that so much came from the boom of TikTok, and you know, the era that started with all of these people in their rooms just creating content and making a killing of it. And I think it sparked like a whole new era with that stuff, because 5-10 years ago you would never see a creator kit in stores next to legit equipment.
The only kit that I've ever seen, or like I do remember seeing, was the vlogger kits.
Yeah.
But then it also begs the question: is that do we? Well, it's sort of a marketing scheme, right?
It totally is. I mean, they're taking advantage of the fact that that's a huge thing right now.
Right.
Is creators
and
from TikTok.
As creators, marketing also comes at a like great factor and stuff like that. So, but that's for a whole new topic. And I honestly think we're like running out of time right now. So should we close it out maybe?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right, bet.
So
how do we close it? How do we close it out for our first podcast?
I mean, honestly, the only way to close it out is just to kind of tell you guys what to expect from here.
Absolutely. So
right?
What you guys should be expecting from us is more conversations like this, debates, and views on how we create.
Not to mention guests.
And a lot of guests.
Plenty of guests to provide plenty of perspective and really interesting stories to come.
But not famous guests. They're just your average guests that we worked with. We've like done like insane projects with. And they're just great people to work with.
Some of them are our good friends. Some of them are just people that we have worked with before in the industry.
Some of them I just met on the internet.
You never know what you're going to get here.
Absolutely.
But that's the beauty of it. You know?
So if you liked what you saw, please hit the subscribe button, like it, and also follow us on our social media pages on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Yes, Facebook page as well.
Absolutely.
All three are up and running.
But for now, this was great talk for our first podcast.
Always great conversation with you, Omar.
Absolutely. And we will see you all next time. Adios.
Peace.